Thank you all for joining. For today's webinar, we have with us CA Bimal Jain. This is our second webinar in collaboration with him. If you have attended the Union Budget analysis that we had hosted in Feb, so he has been a part of that webinar too. So before I hand over to Bimal ji, I would like to give a brief intro of, I'd like to introduce Bimal ji to you. So he is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India since May 1994 and a member of Institute of Company Secretaries of India since December 2006, along with a bachelor's degree in law. He is qualified SAP Finance and Control Consultant and has more than 21 years of experience in indirect taxation and specializes in all aspects of goods and service tax. Value added tax, central state tax, central excise, customs, FTP, SEZ, EOU, export and import laws. And he has working experience of more than 18 years in renowned companies like LG Electronics, Honda, Hindustan Development Corporation, Kaizen and Company. And presently, he is the executive director of A to Z Tax Corp LLP. It's a boutique indirect. It's a boutique for indirect tax firm. So he has a hands-on experience in providing opinion and advisory services, carrying out diagnostic review of business operations, process review, structuring of business model, undertaking litigation services at all appropriate forum. In addition to that, he has won many awards and recognitions. To quote a few for you, we have your, he has been a keynote speaker at the Guinness World Record made by ICSI in largest taxation lesson on GST, attended by 4,500 plus participants. And he's received a Business Leader Award from Amity School, Noida, Best Speaker Award from NARC ICAI, Young Achievers Award at Igniting Minds 2015, and Best Participant Award in MSOP 117th batch by ICSI. So you would have also, if you're an avid learner and if you're into knowing more about taxation, and if you're keen on webinars, then you'd find him on YouTube as well. So now today we have with us Bimal ji to talk about availing GST ITC. So yeah, over to you, Bimal ji. So I'm going to transfer the control to you. Just a second.
At the outset, let me thank Joho for organizing this webinar on important topic, input tax credit for all businesses, challenges and jurisprudence. I greet each one of you who have joined today. Topic is very important in GST, and I'm sure you'd be having a lot of queries in your mind for which you'd be looking for the answer. Today's webinar would be centered around GST input tax credit, and I'm going to touch base 5-6 important burning topic with legal jurisprudence. What is the way forward and solution for all of us together when such GST input tax credit is being disputed by the department? To start with, we all know when GST got introduced in the country on July 1, 2017, it was stated that GST is going to provide seamless flow of credit. It was even object and preamble of 101 Constitution Amendment Act. But today, definitely, you and I both are struggling with. We are not finding GST as a seamless flow of credit. Lot of obstacle, lot of issues around, lot of litigation which is cropping up when we talk about GST input tax credit. Even the GST law, the kind of definition of input services and capital goods on which credit is available, the definition is really too wide. It is being stated that input service and capital goods used or intended to be used in the course of furtherance of business. Look at the wider definition given in the GST law, but still we are not finding seamless flow of credit. Lot of bottleneck. What are the problem? Within the law, there are two broad regions that even though you are paying GST, credit is not available. So first of all, we are keeping out 5 specified petroleum product, which is out of GST. There is no question of credit would be available of pre-GST taxes, whatever we are paying central excise and VAT. That is also creating cascading in our supply chain, supply of goods or services. Because petroleum product, 5 specified product are kept out of GST. When we talk about GST, within the GST law, there is one specific provision, Section 17, subsection 5 of CGST Act. Even though you pay GST on goods or services, you are using the same in the course of furtherance of business, but still. So I was on a point that even though within the GST law, there's a negative list, even though you're using the goods and services in the course of furtherance of business, but still credit will not be available. I given the example of when you're getting your factory or office constructed. I will take little more example little later. Let me start with the basic thumb rule. Today, you need to understand that what are the conditions in GST law for availing credit, why the dispute, why the litigation, and what is the way forward? What is the solution for all of us together? Let's start with the very first point. What are conditions under GST law for availing input tax credit? So you can assume that I'm a supplier in Delhi, unless you become recipient, all of you are buyer for me, let's say in the state of Tamil Nadu. So I'm in Delhi, registered in Delhi, and you all are registered in the state of Tamil Nadu. If I'm supplying goods or services, both are chargeable to interstate, IGST liable. So you have to really understand as a buyer, as a recipient, what are the conditions prescribed in GST law that you need to satisfy for availing input tax credit. Then 4 conditions under section 16 subsection 2, when GST got started on July 1, 2017. Initially 4 conditions were specified. What are those 4 conditions? As a buyer or recipient, when you're availing credit, you have to ensure you're having eligible tax document, which is called tax invoice or debit note. On that, you are availing credit. Second, you must have received goods or services. So not only the tax invoice copy, but you must ensure you have received goods or services both together. Third condition, your supplier must have paid taxes either through e-credit ledger or through e-cash ledger. But we all know this point, the third point which I'm referring to is again a burning topic. We are finding a lot many notices. We are finding a lot many, dispute that as a buyer, you may have paid the amount to me, to the supplier, and supplier has not deposited the money with the government exchequer. So what happened? Whether credit can be denied for the buyer, for the recipient. You as a buyer paid the amount to me. And if this credit is not available to you and you need to reverse the credit, it would be double taxation and reversal along with interest and penalty. So it is creating more hassle for all of us together pan-India. I'm going to take up this issue as well. So third condition as per law, your supplier must have paid taxes to the government exchequer. either through e-cash ledger or through e-credit ledger. What happened if he hasn't paid? I'm going to discuss. And last condition, being buyer and recipient, you must be filing your regular GST return. So when GST got started, there were 4 conditions. You should have tax invoice copy. You must have received goods or services. Your supplier must have paid taxes. And as a buyer, as a recipient, you are regularly filing GST return. Until 1st January 2022. So starting from July 1, 2017 until 1st January 2022, the 5th condition, which was introduced by Finance Act 2021, got introduced, 5th condition, and it was notified on 1st January 2022. And what was that condition? This condition says invoice and debit note on which you as a buyer or recipient availing credit, it must be furnished by the supplier in a GSTR1, and it must be auto-populated in GSTR2B of the recipient. I'm repeating again. 5th condition got notified from 1st January 2022, and it is saying on invoice and debit note you're availing credit, such invoice and debit note must be furnished by the supplier in a GSTR1, must be furnished in a GSTR1, so as getting auto-populated for you, for buyer, for recipient in GSTR2B. GSTR2B. Now here comes the first issue. We are finding in GST there are 2 statements we are referring to for availing credit. One is called GSTR2A, another one is called GSTR2B. And the dispute lies pan-India. And we all know notices are being issued by the department to many taxpayers. If credit availed in GSTR3B is not matching with GSTR2A, then department is sending notices, scrutiny notices. Why credit is not being matched with GSTR2A? So I'm going to touch base some of the points and provide my opinion, my answer to all of you. First question, is there any relevance of GSTR2A for availing credit? First and foremost question. As per me, there is no relevance. I'm repeating the word. There is no relevance of GSTR2A in GST law. Then why department is issuing notices? For the reason this GSTR2A or GSTR2B got introduced by way of rule. There was no corresponding provision in GST law. No corresponding provision. Very first time, effective from 1st January 2022, they have notified 5th condition, and 5th condition is saying that credit must be auto-populated in GSTR2B. Then safely from legal terms, legally we can say, yes, my credit now going to be dependent on GSTR2B because this is the part of the provision of the Act. Got notified from 1st January 2022. Hence, GSTR2B is really an important document, but only on or after. Because this clause was prospective clause, not the retrospective one, got notified only from 1st January 2022, we can safely and legally sound and say, yes, credit going to be dependent on GSTR2B, but from 1st January 2022. Prior to 1st January 2022, in my humble submission, There was no relevance of GSTR 2A or 2B. It was there because of GST rules. But legally, you must be knowing that rule cannot override the provision. Rule are delegated provision. Rules supposed to be introduced only when provision of the act permits so. So there was no provision, only by way of rule they have introduced. So rule cannot override, cannot override. So my answer to all of you once again, prior to 1st January 2022, there was no relevance of GSTR 2A or 2B first. Now I'm giving you some example. We are finding a lot of notices are being issued by the department, right? And we have to really conclude there are a lot many points for which we are looking for the answer. How to defend all those pointers? I'm giving you some of the example. Just note down those example. There may be a case prior to 1st January 2022, your supplier, Bimal Jain Delhi, has furnished the wrong GST number of the buyer. So it was a mistake of supplier. While filing GSTR1, he has wrongly furnished GST number of the buyer. So if I'm wrongly furnishing in my GSTR1, quite obvious it is not going to be auto-populated in GSTR2A or 2B. There may be a case B2B supply, but wrongly furnished as a B2C supply. Wrongly furnished as a B2C supply. It is not going to be auto-populated in GSTR 2A or 2B. It is interstate supply from Delhi to Tamil Nadu. IGST supposed to be charged. Yes, invoice is raised with IGST, but let's say wrongly furnished by supplier in a GSTR1 as a intrastate. Place of supply mentioned as Delhi as against Tamil Nadu, then it is not going to be reflected in your 2A or 2B. It is going to be ineligible credit. There may be a case supplier has only filed GSTR 3B but did not file GSTR 1. So even though supplier has paid the taxes through 3B but did not file GSTR 1, hence not going to be auto-populated in your GSTR 2A or 2B. So these notices which is being issued for mismatch of credit, credit availed in GSTR 3B is not matching with GSTR 2A, then my answer to each one of you would be, you need to satisfy only 4 conditions. Only 4 conditions for the period prior to 1st January 2022. 1st January 2022 prior. What are those 4 conditions? Quick recap. You should have tax invoice, which you are having. You must have received goods or services. You have received goods or services. Your supplier has paid the taxes. It was only wrong furnishing of GST number. B2B captured as a B2C, or inter is being captured as a intra. Taxes are being paid through 3B, but not GSTR1. GSTR1 did not file. So there may be lot many region. And for that region, it is not coming in 2A. Then credit is not available. Yes, credit is available. Credit is available for the period prior to 1st January 2022. Only 4 conditions need to be satisfied. I'm giving you one Chhattisgarh High Court judgment, Balco Limited. The dispute was their credit availed in GSTR 3B was not matching with GSTR 2A. Department has issued a notice to Balco Limited. They have filed a writ petition in the before Honorable Chhattisgarh High Court. This notice was stayed by Honorable Chhattisgarh High Court on 2 broad arguments. And these arguments are given to you, but again, I'm reiterating. First argument, prior to 1st January 2022, only 4 conditions need to be satisfied. Which? recipient has satisfied the same. Second argument is that credit was not dependent on GSTR 2A because under section 16 subsection 2 there was no reference. Yes, I do agree there was some provision of section 41, 42, 43, 43A pertaining to ITC matching and mismatching. But government did not implement those sections for ITC matching and mismatching because that could have been possible had they introduced automated GST return system like GSTR1 auto-populated in 2A, GSTR2, then GSTR1A, then GSTR3. This was never, GSTR2 and 3 never got implemented. And GSTR2A came sometime in the beginning of 2019 only. So Balco Limited, Chhattisgarh High Court, notice issued for credit mismatching is being kept on hold for two regions, which I've cited. Now the question will come for all of you to know, and you need to answer. What happened post 1st January 2022? So we are talking about period on or after 1st January 2022, where the credit is now really dependent. If it is dependent on GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B. Answer H. Post 1st January 2022, credit is dependent on GSTR 2B. GSTR 2B. And GSTR 2B is a static credit statement. And GSTR 2A is a dynamic credit statement. So GSTR 2B is now relevant because it is a part of the provision of the Act. Fifth condition. So all five conditions need to be satisfied together for availing ITC. Now here also I'm creating two good, example for all of you so that you can analyze this relevance of GSTR 2B. First example. Credit is coming in GSTR 2B. Just start thinking. I'm giving you this food for thought. Let's say credit coming in GSTR 2B, but you have not received the goods in the relevant tax period. So to understand better, let's take an example. I'm being supplier. I've supplied goods on 31st March 2022. I have raised the invoice on 31st March 2022 from Delhi. And goods are being supplied from Delhi to Tamil Nadu. You as a buyer in Tamil Nadu, receiving these goods on 13th of April, today, 13th April 2022. So as a supplier, I have furnished this invoice in my GSTR1 for the month of March. If I'm furnishing the same, yes, it is going to be auto-populated in your GSTR2B for the month of March. But you have not received the goods in the month of March. You're receiving on 13th of April 2022. The question is, credit coming in 2B. Credit is coming in 2B for the month of March. But goods are not being received in the month of March. So my question was, again, I'm rephrasing my question for your answer. Credit coming in 2B. Can you avail 100% credit? Because goods are being received on 13th April 2022. April 2022. Can you take credit in the month of March 2022? Answer is no. You can't avail credit in the month of March 2022. Credit going to be available only in the month of April 2022, where you are receiving the goods. It means you need to satisfy all five conditions for availing credit. Just credit auto-populated in 2B, you will avail credit? No. You need to satisfy all other conditions. Now, reverse situation. Credit not coming in GSTR 2B. Let's assume Credit not coming in GSTR 2B. Can you avail credit? And what could be the example where credit is not coming in GSTR 2B? I'm giving you some of the example. When you're importing goods, you're paying custom duty including IGST. Bill of entry is the relevant document for availing credit, but it is not getting auto-populated in your GSTR 2B. There's the process through IceGate. You have to track the transaction and then you have to link the transaction with your GSTR 2B, but it is not getting auto-populated. So it is not coming as a auto-populated in GSTR 2B, IGST, which you have paid on import of goods. Even though it is not coming in 2B, where the credit is not available, credit is available. Second example, reverse charge method, RCM method, wherein you as a buyer, you as a recipient, going to pay GST for specified goods. There's specified notification 4/2017 for specified services under RCM 13/2017. You as a buyer, recipient, going to pay GST. Question is, when you're paying reverse charge liability and even import of services, you're paying reverse charge liability as a buyer, as a recipient under RCM method. That never gets auto-populated in GSTR 2B. It is not getting auto-populated. Question is whether credit is available or not available. Answer, you all have given and you are also answering, I'm sure about, credit is available even though not auto-populated. So I given you two examples, credit coming in 2B but still can't be availed. That is dependent upon other condition to be satisfied, like goods received on 13th April. I given you reverse example also, credit not coming in 2B but still credit is available. Reverse charge liability, import of goods, import of services. So what I'm concluding here, that yes, credit is now going to be dependent on GSTR 2B from 1st January 2020. So I was on a pointer. Once again, I'm starting that post 1st January 2022. Yes, credit is going to be dependent on GSTR 2B, but with the check cross verification. I given you the example that credit coming in 2B, but still credit is not available. And I also gave the example credit not coming in GSTR 2B, but still credit would be available. So both the example is being stated. Then what happened, this finance bill 2022, this finance act, union budget, this budget, they have introduced sixth condition. So I'm telling you that the GST seamless flow of credit is really not a seamless flow of credit. The sixth condition is really a burdensome, a troublesome conditions. And what is that condition, you know? They are saying credit coming in GSTR 2B need to be cross-checked from section 38 and it should not be restricted. It should not be restricted. Audience, I'm very sorry today we are getting network issue, but I'm thankful you're still sticking with me and I will definitely continue even after 5 o'clock. Please allow me to make my sixth condition, which got introduced from this Union Budget 2022. And sixth condition is, even though credit getting auto-populated in GSTR 2B, but credit is not available if it is restricted under section 38, and section 38 got wholly substituted by this Finance Act 2022. It is prospective clause yet to be notified, but they're saying, Bimal, even though credit is auto-populated in GSTR 2B, but if it is restricted under section 38, then credit is not available, even though it is coming in GSTR 2B of the buyer or recipient. So problem is way forward. Section 38, now they are putting 6 restriction. So you got 6 condition under section 16 subsection 2. Now you're getting 6 restriction under section 38, which is prospective clause yet to be notified, introduced by Finance Act 2022. What are those restrictions? Listen very carefully. Restriction number 1. If you are taking credit from a supplier and supplier is newly registered under GST law, then government may specify some period, or recipient is taking new registration, both way. Supplier or recipient taking new registration, and for the new registrant for specified period, it may be stated by the department, by the government, that credit is not available, going to be restricted, even though it is auto-populated in your GSTR 2B. Second restriction. If your supplier or you are defaulted in payment of tax and default continues for specified period, then it may be restricted. That credit coming in 2B, auto-populated in 2B, but the credit is going to be restricted. Credit is not going to be available. Third condition. Your output tax as per GSTR 1 exceeds with output tax as per GSTR 3B. So there's a difference of output tax in GSTR 1 versus GSTR 3B. Let's say you have shown 1 lakh rupees output tax in GSTR 1, but making payment of 50,000 rupees tax through GSTR 3B. So there is difference. And if this difference exceeds the specified limit, then this credit going to be restricted, even though it is auto-populated in GSTR 2B. And this specified limit, government will notify. They will issue a rules. They will come out with the detailed rules in this regard. Fourth condition. Credit availed in GSTR 3B is not matching, so exceeding with credit auto-populated in GSTR 2B, and that is exceeding beyond the specified limit. So answer is, and for clarity purpose, let's say you have taken credit of 1 lakh rupees in GSTR 3B, but auto-populated in GSTR 2B only to the extent of 50,000. So that is exceeding. And if this is exceeding beyond specified limit, and this specified limit government will notify in time to come. But this is the fourth restriction. Even though credit coming in 2B, but still you will not be able to avail the credit. Fifth condition, and this is one of the, you can say harsh provision. You as a buyer will not be able to use your e-credit ledger fully. Government going to notify and say and restrict that you will use your e-credit ledger only to the extent of specified limit. That may be 99%, that may be 98%, that may be 97%. So they're saying if you're having 100 rupees in your e-credit ledger, you will not be able to use full amount. It will be only to the extent of specified limit. That may be 99, 98, 97. Meaning thereby, we have to pay differential amount in cash, even though you would be having the balance in your e-credit ledger. That is the fifth restriction. And last, for any specified class of person, government may say, credit coming in 2B, but still you will not be able to get the credit. So just look at the ease of business. Just look at the seamless flow of credit government is referring to. There are 5 conditions. Initially started with the 4th condition, Then fifth condition, GSTR 2B got introduced from 1st January 2022. Then this budget, again sixth condition with six restriction under section 38. To my mind, GST, seamless flow of credit, is really a bottleneck. It is not coming out as a seamless flow of credit. And there are a lot of hurdles when we talk about seamless flow of credit. This was my first point. Coming to the second point. Second point. Out of this five condition which I referred, one of the condition whole India is second important burning topic. I've supplied the goods from Delhi to Tamil Nadu. You are genuine and honest taxpayer. You have paid the amount to me. Is supplier who defaulted and did not deposit the tax with the government exchequer. Did not deposit the tax with the government exchequer. Lot of notices are being issued to the buyer, to the recipient. And what department is asking? They wanting a buyer to reverse credit along with interest and penalty, which is not deposited by the supplier. So who is at fault? Supplier? You paid the amount to the supplier. Supplier did not deposit. So if anyone need to be penalized, then supplier need to be penalized. Why department is demanding reversal of credit from the buyer, from the recipient, who has already paid the amount to the supplier? Am I right in saying so? If it is the case, then it would be double taxation. You as a buyer has paid the amount to the supplier, and again it is need to be reversed, then double taxation and plus interest and penalty, whether logically correct. This is the issue, challenge. What is the way forward? Let me tell you the answer. In pre-GST era, this was the problem. This is not like that. This is the new issue which we are discussing today. This issue was there even in pre-GST era. When central excise credit was available as a sandwich credit, the matter has gone up to the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of KK Industries Limited. An issue was very similar, whether credit can be denied for the buyer, for the recipient, for the fault of supplier of non-payment of taxes. Honorable Supreme Court has said no way possible. You can't deny credit for the buyer, for the bona fide buyer. Under VAT regime, maximum high court in India, including one of the Delhi High Court judgment, Arise India. Same judgment, credit can't be denied for the buyer, for the recipient, for the fault of supplier of non-payment of taxes. SLP was filed by the revenue in Supreme Court, which got dismissed. Nothing was discussed on merit, but I'm telling you, all the High Court in India has given judgment in favor of a taxpayer, except one Mumbai High Court, Bombay High Court judgment in the Mahakottan Lakshmi case. Similar issue has arose in GST regime also. In GST regime, we got one judgment from Madras High Court, and which is very much good judgment in the case which we are referring here. Let me tell you the fact first so that you will get a clarity. Issue was similar. Department has issued a notice to recipient, to the buyer, for reversal of credit because supplier has not deposited the tax. So what department wanted, that this buyer must reverse credit along with interest and penalty. This was the department, they have issued the notice. This guy has gone to before Madras High Court, and before Madras High Court he has argued 2 point, and this is the good point which I'm referring to all of you. He has argued before the court, my lord, this GST department has given registration to both the parties, to the supplier and to the recipient. If department knows that the supplier defaulted in payment of tax, why department is not approaching to the defaulting supplier? They should go and catch hold of neck of defaulting supplier. Instead, they are coming to me and demanding reversal of credit along with interest and penalty. The first point. And second point was argued before Honorable Madras High Court. There's one legal maxim, lex non cogit. And second point which was argued before Honorable Madras High Court was that legal maxim, lex non cogit ad impossibilia. Can you really compel a person to do something which is impossible? See, there's one factual position which we all know. The GST got introduced from July 1, 2017. But there was no window available until this GSTR 2A came into the picture. And GSTR 2A came into the picture sometime in the beginning of 2019. So prior to beginning of 2019, until this GSTR 2A was into the picture, how a recipient would be knowing that this supplier, even after collecting the tax, has not deposited? Recipient was not having any information. There was no window available in the hands of buyer or recipient to know that this supplier, even after collecting the tax, has not deposited the tax with the government exchequer, right? This was the problem. And this was a legal maxim. You cannot compel a person to do something impossible. So for the period prior to GSTR 2A, how you can compel recipient and buyer when there was no window available, no information available? And third argument which I'm putting forth, even though if this window is available, why the buyer going to be suffered? Why recipient going to be suffered? When department knows who is defaulter, why they will not take action against the defaulting supplier? They must go and take action against the defaulting supplier. That is what required. And that's what we all are talking about. So Honorable Madras High Court has given judgment in favor of a taxpayer, saying that unless investigation is initiated against the defaulting supplier, you cannot ask a recipient buyer to reverse credit along with interest and penalty. It's a very good judgment. Very good judgment. So having said that, then the next question will come, and which you will be interested to know. The judgment name was D.Y. Bethel Enterprises. D.Y. Bethel Enterprises by Madras High Court. Now in this budget also one change has been made. One change has been made under section 41. And under section 41, they are referring that if your supplier has defaulted and does not pay the tax to the government exchequer, then buyer or recipient has to reverse credit. This provision is being now proposed under section 41 by Finance Act 2022. It is prospective clause yet to be notified. So what I'm finding, I'm telling you my legal weightage today. When this provision is first time getting introduced under section 41, which is talking about reversal of credit by the buyer, recipient, for non-payment of tax by the supplier, then what I'm concluding in my humble submission, since this is a prospective clause, unless it gets notified, then for the period prior to the date of notification, we can very well argue no reversal to be done by the buyer or recipient. I will say in the court of law, my lord, this reversal provision has come very first time, and this has come, let's say, from 1st January 2023, let's assume, then I will say period prior to 1st January 2023, there was no provision for reversal. They have introduced this provision very first time, which is prospective clause. Then of course, from the provision of the act, reversal would be required, but that would be required only from the date of notification. So we can very well argue for the past period. Now, second point, this section 41, which got amended, is also talking about you have to pay interest also for reversal of credit. Now, this is the part of provision, which is a harsh provision. I must say harsh provision, interest at the rate of 18% per annum. So you can re-avail the credit. Once your supplier pays the liability, you can re-avail the credit. And for re-availing, there is no time limit. You should not go back to time limit under section 16, subsection 4. You need not require to. But interest is a cost. Interest is a cost, 18% per annum. To that extent, we are requesting to the government why you are demanding interest on reversal of ITC. Because reversal of ITC is again going to be double amount paid by the buyer, and his credit is only going to be available when supplier deposits the tax. So 2 point to conclude. This section 41, which got amended by Finance Act 2022, is a prospective clause. It is going to be notified from a date, and in my example, I have assumed 1st January 2023. I said assumed. So for the period prior to 1st January 2023, we can always argue before the court of law, my lord, this reversal provision has come very first time in the law. And that is talking about reversal. Yeah, so I was referring and telling you that you can always argue in case you got the notice from the department for reversal of credit for non-payment of tax by your supplier. You can always legally defend yourself that there is no provision for reversal, and if at all payment to be made by defaulting supplier. And you can cite this section 41, which is being introduced by Finance Act 2022. I'm telling you, each one of you, my latest 7th edition of GST law and commentary, it's coming out in a market on this 18th of April. I have analyzed this provision and created my author's note for the simplicity, for understanding's sake. To my mind, for the past period, unless this provision gets notified, section 41, for the past period, we would be having legal backing to say, since now they are saying reversal, then for the past period, reversal is not required. Of course, for the interest we all are looking for, we are looking for the clarity, and we are requesting government they should done away with this interest provision, which is too hard a provision, and rate of interest is 18% per annum. Second point, come to the third point. Time limit to avail credit. Time limit to avail credit under GST. Section 16, subsection 4. What is the time limit? It should be earliest of due date. What are those due date? Due date for furnishing return under section 39, which is GSTR 3B. There was dispute initially, but Honorable Supreme Court, relying Bharti Airtel judgment, has said 3B is a return under section 39. So let's leave this topic, because this topic is again dubious, but they're saying due date for furnishing 3B for September in the following year, pertaining to a particular financial year, from the end of particular financial year. So if I'm referring financial year 21-22, then due date for furnishing 3B would be for the September 22, and due date would be in general case 20th October 2022, or date of furnishing annual return, and which is 31st December 2022. So whichever is earlier, so 20th October 2022 is the earliest date. This budget, they have made change. So this due date furnishing 3B for September, they are replacing with 30th November. 30th November standard, 30th November. This is what the change they have made. Now some query which is coming out. Let me resolve those queries and solve it out for you. First query. Yes, we know that when GST got introduced, there were many challenges. For 2017-18, by way of special order, they have said 31st March 2019 is the last date. For 2018-19, 1920, 2021, there was nothing, no extension, but dispute was there that what is the return under section 39, whether GSTR 3 or GSTR 3B. So AAP and the company, Honorable Gujarat High Court said that GSTR 3B is not a return under section 39. Now recently, Honorable Supreme Court, relying on Bharti Airtel judgment, larger bench judgment, has said that 3B is a return under section 39. But to my mind, we can always litigate this matter because this 3B got introduced by way of Rule 61, Sub Rule 5, with retrospective date by notification number 49/2019, which was not challenged in Bharti Airtel. Bharti Airtel challenge was whether GSTR 3B can be amended or not. To my mind, relying on larger bench Bharti Airtel judgment in the case of AAP and company is not a correct proposition. But now it is being stated 3B is a return under section 39. Let's conclude 3B is a return. Now, there are a lot of queries around. First, this Union Budget 2022. Now, they have said 30th November. So, as against 20th October 2022, it could be 30th November. So, I'm not saying it is applicable for 21-22. For the example, I'm discussing with all of you. So, they will say for which particular financial year this 30th November provision going to be applicable. So, for any particular financial year, earliest date would be 30th November of next financial year following the end of relevant financial year. What are the question which is before us? The first question which I'm asking all of you. This 30th November can be applied for credit taken in GSTR 3B of November also, or it is only for October and which is to be filed by 20th November of next financial year. So this question is boiling pan India. First of all, this is a budget proposal, Finance Act 2022, yet to be notified. But we have to give a thought to it. It is only talking about October month return 3B due to be filed by 20th November, or even the November 3B, which is to be filed by 20th December. In my humble summation, I know that credit availed in GSTR 3B, and I'm giving food for thought to all of you. To my mind, credit is being availed in the return 3B, which is due to be filed on 28th December. So I'm saying that even for the November month return 3B, credit availed by 30th November in my books of accounts, and which is only furnished by 20th December 2022 or 20th December 23, as and when it is going to be applicable. In my humble submission, it must include even the November month return. Because as per books, I would be availing credit by 30th November. It is only furnishing of data, but need clarity from the government. There are two different thought process, but to each and provide relaxation, it should be clarified. Second point, which is very interesting, I get lot of query pan India, sir, what happened if RCM liability, reverse charge method liability of 17-18, 18-19, 1920. If I'm paying today on 13th April 2022, can I avail credit? This question I get pan India. My answer to all of you. If there is reverse charge method liability from unregistered supplier, so they are specified goods, 4/2017, specified services, 13/2017. Under RCM, you as a buyer need to pay reverse charge liability. Let's take one example so that you can understand in clear terms. Let's say an advocate raising one invoice to you on 1st January 2019. So pertaining to 1819. 1st January 2019, he has raised the invoice for 10 lakh rupees. You need to pay reverse charge liability. As per time of supply provision, due date for paying reverse charge is 1st March. So a day following the end of 60 days, you need to pay reverse charge liability if you have not paid the amount to the supplier. So it would be earliest of two, date of payment or date following the end of 60 days from the date of invoice. Let's say you have not paid the amount to the advocate. So what is the POT, point of taxation, time of supply? 61st day, which is 1st March 2019. You were supposed to pay reverse charge liability, which you didn't pay. On 13th April 2022, now you come to know that this reverse charge liability is pending and you need to pay this liability. First question which will come up to you, sir, do I require to pay RCM? Of course you need to pay RCM. What is the due date? 1st March 2019, 61st day as per time of supply provision. RCM need to be paid in cash, no credit. Do we require to pay interest? Yes, 18% per annum. Third question, sir, can I get the credit of 1819 now today? That is the question pan India, burning topic. Time limit for 1819 gone for availing credit under section 16 subsection 4. But I'm only talking for the reverse charge liability which you have procured from unregistered supplier, unregistered advocate, which you are paying today on 13th April 2022. Can you avail credit? Listen very carefully. In my humble submission, credit is available to you. What is the relevant document? You need to raise self-invoice to yourself. Buyer need to raise self-invoice under section 31 subsection 3 clause F of CGST Act. And this is the eligible document, self-invoice raised to yourself. It's the eligible document under rule 36 sub-rule 1 for availing credit subject to payment. So you're paying today on 13th April 2022. The problem which could be that you were supposed to raise self-invoice in the month of January 2019, which you didn't do. You're raising in current month today, April 2022. So there's a violation. Violation of the provision of GST law. Let it be. Let it be. I will pay general penalty under section 125. I will pay general penalty under section 125, which is 25,000 rupees from CGST, 25,000 SGST, maximum 50,000. So by paying 50,000 rupees for not following the procedure, raising self-invoice now, today's dated 13th April 2022, I will get the credit. Then 13th April 2022 going to fall in the current month GSTR 3B, April 2022. I will pay the liability along with interest. Interest is a cost of which no credit, but RCM paid of 1819 credit would be available because self-invoice dated age 13th April 2022. Hence, the period 22-23 going to be the relevant financial year for determining time limit to avail credit. Determining time limit to avail credit. Only thing, general penalty going to be levied for self-invoice not generated on time. This is pertaining to unregistered supplier subject to RCM you are paying today. And second point to draw, Pabo. There was one press release in July 2019 while filing GST R9 and 9C. In that press release, it is being stated, very specifically stated, that RCM liability you should show in that relevant financial year wherein you are making the payment, because you are going to avail the credit when you are making the payment. This is being stated specifically. So 18-19 liability paid in 22-23, as per that press release, I must show that liability in 22-23, relevant month GSTR 3B. Only general penalty for not raising self-invoice. This is pertaining to unregistered supplier. What happened for registered supplier subject to RCM? So maybe specified goods or services subject to RCM, but you procured from registered supplier. So registered supplier raising invoice, he will not charge the tax because RCM liability. But in that case, registered supplier once has raised the invoice, shown in GSTR1, ticked as to be paid by the recipient, then you will not get benefit as you were getting in case of unregistered supplier. Because registered supplier could have raised the invoice shown in a GSTR1 dated as per 2019, hence time limit gone. Time limit under section 16 subsection 4 gone. So this was the third important condition. Before I proceed further, because time is again paused for all of you also, and you all are sticking, even though network issue, but still you're sticking with me and listening to me so carefully. Last point I want to do in front of you, and this is last point, again very interesting point. Listen very carefully. I'm going to give you some platter for good understanding. We all know that under GST law, there's a negative list, block credit. Credit is not available. Even though used or intended to be used in the course of furtherance of business. Like construction of hotel, mall, factory, office, credit is not available. So let me create one example so that you get a better understanding and better clarity. Let's say you all are a company, Reliance Industries Limited. You all are a company. You have given a contract to works contractor Bimal Jain for 100 crore rupees for construction of hotel, mall, factory or office. My first question which I'm going to ask you, if I'm undertaking construction of immovable property, I'm going to charge GST, right? When I'm charging GST to you, to your end customer, Reliance Industries Limited, whether you will get the credit of this GST charged on construction of hotel, mall, factory and office, credit is available. Under section 17, subsection 5, clause D, credit is not available. Not available. Even though you are going to use in the course of furtherance of business. Just pause for a minute. Situation 2, 100 crore rupees got subcontracted. 50 crore rupees are given to another subcontractor, works contract service provider. So I given 50 crore rupees works contract service subcontracted to another subcontractor. Now subcontractor is providing service to the main contractor Bimal Jain of 50 crore rupees, charging GST on 50 crore rupees. Whether main contractor can take credit of GST charged by a subcontractor for works contract services, credit is available or not. Answer is credit is available to the main contractor. But when main contractor charging GST to the end customer will not get the credit. So second proposition. Third proposition. This 100 crore rupees contract was inclusive of all material, services and everything. So main contractor was supposed to procure all material, cement, iron, steel and services. He was supposed to provide. But being end customer, Reliance Industries Limited, you thought of that let me procure cement and iron steel from the market and give it back to Bimal Jain, main contractor, free of cost, FOC. So what you did as a buyer, you procure cement and iron steel from the market, let's say 50 crore rupees from a supplier, and he has charged GST to the end customer, Reliance Industries. Question to all of you. Whatever GST charged by supplier to you for supply of cement and iron steel, can you take credit? Because you are going to use this cement and iron steel for construction of immovable property. Can you take credit? No credit available. 17 subsection 5 clause D, no credit available. Next proposition. Now you are providing this 50 crore rupees cement and iron steel to your main supplier, FOC, free of cost. So what happened when you have given me 50 crore rupees cement and iron steel free of cost? Then the contract was initially for 100 crore. But now I will claim only 50 crore rupees from you because 50 crore rupees cement and iron steel you provided to me free of cost. Question is, on what amount this main contractor going to charge GST? It is 50 crore, which is the net amount, or it is 100 crore inclusive of FOC material, cement and iron steel? Please tell me. So maybe both of you, there are two schools. One school would be saying need to be included, GST to be charged on 100 crore. Another school would be thinking that GST to be charged on 50 crore. Answer H. GST to be charged by main contractor on 100 crore rupees. For region under section 15 subsection 2 clause B, where supplier is liable. Yes, I was liable to procure cement and iron steel, but incurred by the recipient. Hence, this value need to be included under section 15 subsection 2 clause B of CGST Act. Even though I'm supposed to get 50 crore, but 50 crore need to be included FOC supplies in my valuation for the chargeability of GST. And that is going to be again double taxation in your hand. When you procure cement and steel, credit was not available. And now main contractor will include this 50 crore in its valuation and he will charge GST of which no credit available to you. So be careful, such contract need to be properly drafted. In case you are giving FOC supplies to your contractor, please make sure that that is not made liability of supplier. So you have to be very careful because that will reduce your tax cascading, giving you food for thought. Now, last component, which is beauty of this particular example today. Yes, we know that section 17, subsection 5, clause D, putting a bar. Clause C and clause D, both are putting a bar that credit is not available on construction of immovable property, except plant and machinery. Except plant and machinery. We all know that credit is not available. And it is being stated that such expenditure which are capitalized in the books of accounts are considered towards construction of immovable property. But question is, if I'm getting hotel constructed, mall constructed, factory constructed, my office constructed, I'm going to use for my taxable outward supply. If I'm getting hotel constructed, what I will do? I will let out for commercial purpose. I will charge GST on my outward supply. And on construction, which is my inward, credit is not available. It is too harsh a provision, right? Too harsh a provision. Safari retreats, Odisha High Court judgment. Honorable Odisha High Court, in the case of Safari retreats, has said that credit would be available. SLP got filed against this judgment before Honorable Supreme Court. Odisha High Court judgment is being stayed. This matter is sub judice before Honorable Supreme Court. Now, what you will do? Listen so that we can decide way forward. Challenge, but what is the way forward? If we know that credit is not available on construction of immovable property, then we are having two options. Not to avail credit and book as a cost in our books of accounts, either capitalized and claim depreciation, whatever you want it to be. So this is the very safest route which you can follow. Another option could be, and which is little aggressive, but with working formula, certain risk appetite, which I'm sharing with all of you. Let's say I know that this credit is disputed sub judice before Honorable Supreme Court, Odisha High Court, Safari retreats, but I decide that I will avail the credit. I decide that I will avail the credit. So if I'm availing credit, what are the things I should keep in my mind and why should I avail the credit? Listen very carefully. If I don't avail the credit and tomorrow Honorable Supreme Court decide that credit is available, then what happened? Time limit condition under section 16 subsection 4 will be gone, your time limit gone. So after Supreme Court judgment, if you have not availed, after Supreme Court judgment, there will not be time available for availing credit. So this option is gone. If you avail credit and Supreme Court decide positive, then you have satisfied the condition of section 16 subsection 4 time limit to avail credit, right? No challenge. Let's assume Supreme Court decide negative. They say credit is not available because of the provision as existing under section 17 subsection 5 clause C and clause D. Let's assume, I'm assuming that Supreme Court decide contradictory, decide against the taxpayer. So I will only give you one precaution. You should avail the credit, but make sure that you are not using this credit. You avail the credit, but should not use the credit till the time Honorable Supreme Court decide this subject matter. If Supreme Court decide negative against the taxpayer, then at most you need to reverse the credit, right? So you need to reverse the credit. So question would be, you have wrongly availed the credit which was not available, but you have not utilized the same because of advice given by Bimal Jain. So wrongly availed credit but not utilized. Whether interest is leviable, whether penalty is leviable. This question will come to your mind, right? An answer to all of you. As per this Finance Act 2022, the corresponding change which is being made under section 50 subsection 3 of CGST Act, they have said no interest if you wrongly availed but not utilized. If you have wrongly availed but not utilized. So fortune in our way, I've only availed the credit, it is wrongly, no problem. I've not utilized the same. Hence, no interest leviable, and to my mind, no penalty going to be levied because wrongly availed credit, unless utilized. Once you utilize such credit, then only it result into non-payment or short payment of tax, which is the provision under section 50 subsection 1 for levy of interest. So unless credit utilized, we cannot say that there is non-payment or short payment. So credit wrongly availed, you have not utilized the same, it will not result into short payment or non-payment. And wrongly availed credit, not utilized, reverse later, no interest. Now this is the provision, and to my mind, no penalty. So advice, you can take credit, should not utilize the same. Reverse when Supreme Court judgment comes against us. But if you avail the credit, then you're satisfying section 16, subsection 4, time limit to avail credit. Hope you got this point in crystal clear terms. I've exceeded my presentation almost half an hour. There were a lot of frequent bandwidth issue, network issue, but I've tried to make it simplified. There were two more issues, but we are starting a webinar series with Johor Books. So you can write back to us on the topic you are interested to watch. And definitely we will touch base those important burning topic for all the viewers coming on Johor Books platform. And this is the beginning, and definitely we are trying and we will do. And I'm thanking each one of you that even though there was bandwidth issue, network issue, but you all have stayed tuned with me and watching this webinar till end. I've seen that number of participants were 325, 330, and they are still continuing and tuned together with me. That shows that even though network was sometime going away, but you were on and really enjoyed, and you are really participating. So thanking once again to each one of you. This webinar series, which is started by Johor, will continue in coming months as well. So you can write back the topic where you're interested and you want to really learn more for the GST. Today we have taken 4 topics and we have discussed at length. So GST ITC, though envisages a seamless flow of credit, but we have seen the challenges, many challenges. And today we have taken those important challenges for which notices are being issued by the department, and I've given you food for thought. I've given you the way forward. I've given you the clarity that how you can resolve such queries. And this is the platform I'm also using today to announce and to let you know that our 7th edition of GST law commentary, law procedure commentary, which is 4-volume book, is now going to be launched on 18th of April with many practical examples. You will come to know and you will see many things. Like one example I can discuss here, then I will summarize, which is the part of that book. In this Union Budget 2022, since there was no solution and everywhere I was listening, there was a problem. So I thought of, creating this example and giving solution in that book. An issue watch. In this budget, what the government has done, that if you are having any balance in your e-cash ledger, let's say you are having 4 registration, let's say 2 registration to simplicity, Delhi registration and Tamil Nadu registration under same PAN number. Now you have got some e-cash balance in Delhi and you got liability in your Tamil Nadu registration under same PAN number. Question was, can you transfer the balance lying in e-cash ledger of Delhi to Tamil Nadu? Because prior to that problem was you should take refund from Delhi and deposit in Tamil Nadu and pay the liability. This year budget is fortunate enough. One of the good proposal, the e-cash balance ledger lying under IGST and CGST can be transferred from one distinct person, Delhi, to another distinct person, Tamil Nadu, under same PAN number. But only IGST and CGST. But what happened? In case you're having challenges, you're facing challenges. Now, there may be liability under SGST. That is what, again, the problem could be that there's a liability under SGST or UTGST. How to be done all these things and how it can be transferred from one ledger head to another ledger head. So those proposition is going to help you when you read these examples in that particular book. I'm just giving food for thought. Lot many things are there, but thanking each one of you once again, along with Joho Books, for organizing this webinar series. And I'm sure in this year we will enjoy lot many topic of GST burning topic with a way forward and solution. So we can take some of the questions which is lying in a chat box or question box, and then we will sum up. So Harshini, what you are going to do? Are you going to ask those queries or?
Yes, Bimalji, I'll project the questions. And before we go with the questions, first of all, thank you so much. It was such an insightful webinar. I think the reason why the audience stuck on to the webinar despite the internet issue is because of your, delivery, and you kept them on the hook. So you, in your style, I think you had, we are getting a lot of appreciations from the attendees also that the session was really nice. So first of all, thank you. And it's a surprise. You announced your book launch on April 18th. On behalf of Zoho, I'd like to congratulate you on that. Best wishes, Bimalji. And we are looking forward to having more such webinars with you. Uh,
Thank you.
and yeah, so like you said, let's take a few questions. I think we are over our time. So let's take a few questions. We have a lot of questions from the attendees. So I'll just a second. Let me project the questions for you. Okay. So let's, okay. We have one question from Sanjeev. So it's on the screen. Okay. If imported goods are rejected, then it should be sent on export under LUT invoice without GST, or should be sent on debit note.
See, when you're importing and then returning it back, so it is not export. Export means which are the goods taken from India to a place outside India. So it is just return of imported defective goods. That is not the export.
All right. So next question is, we have one from Shiva Kumar.
Your questions are not being getting projected. I can't see those questions.
Okay.
View questions. Okay. View question. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So we are giving services to farmers with third party. Third party will give invoice to us. My question is, what is the liability of a company whether to charge GST on farmers for services? Second is, can we take ITC for invoice provided by third party to us?
See, Mr. Sivakumar, though your question is very, straight and forward, but still it is factual position which is going to determine. Now you're saying that we are giving services to farmers with third party. So are you giving services to farmers directly, or you're giving services to the third party? And third party will give invoice to us. So please try to understand here third party getting involved and beneficiaries farmers only. So you have to look at the exemption notification 12 public 2017. Certain specified services pertaining to agriculture activities are exempted. So even though third party raising invoice but pertaining to agriculture activities may be exempted. So depending on factual position, you need to determine. So with the basics, whatever you provided in your questions, my only submission to you, Mr. Sivakumar, would be please try to analyze what kind of services which is being given to the farmers and what is the invoice raised by third party pertaining to what. It is not the invoice is being raised, it is pertaining to what activities. Activities are important for the chargeability that may be taxable or may be exempted.
Thank you, Bimalji. So we have one more question from Rajashekhar. He says, if I purchase items from small shops at MRP, should I pay reverse charge for those invoice? If it
Need not required, because this procurement from unregistered supplier under section 9 subsection 4 is being done away with from 13th of October 2017. 13th of October 2017. So there's no provision when you procure from unregistered supplier. Of course, 5,000 exemption was available until that 13th October 2017. But after 13th October 2017, it is completely done away with.
Thank you, Bimalji. So let's take a last question for today. Though we have a lot of questions, we couldn't answer all of you, but we have our last question for the day. We have one from Mr. Jain. So he says, what is the guarantee that coming of ITC in 2B is actually paid by the supplier? He might not have paid actual tax.
Kanti Lalji, you answered to you that now government has proposed in this Union Budget 2022, they are going to done away with the two-way communication between supplier and recipient. And quite obvious, you are raising a good question. What is the guarantee whether supplier has paid the taxes or not? In present GST R2A, you came to know whether your supplier is paying the taxes or not. Only point which is not clear, that let's say he has filed GST R1 for 1 lakh, whether he has paid the liability to the extent of 1 lakh, that is not coming out in clear terms. And second question, which is again open question, that whether your particular invoice on which you have availed credit as a buyer, whether that is really being paid by the supplier. So these are very subjective question. But way forward, what government is now planning, they are going for sequential filing of GST return system. Two-way communication they are going to done away with. So when you read this two-way communication going to be a unilateral now, credit going to be dependent on supplier only. So we have discussed at length in our GST newly launched book that way forward down the time, 6 months to a year, you will find that the government will strengthen everything. They have introduced lot many provision under section 37, 39, explanation under section 75, subsection 12, under rule 59, sub rule 6. So maybe next webinar, we will do that sequential filing of GST return and how you are being ensured that your supplier is correctly paying the taxes or not. So we will do next webinar only on this point, because I know this is a problematic area and recipient and buyer are having apprehension how they will determine the supplier is tax compliant, paying the taxes. So I'm going to tell you all the provision which is being now introduced as a way forward, one way, unilateral, credit dependent on supplier, how it is going to be evident to you, how you can check and verify, what are the things available on GST common portal. We are going to discuss in next webinar. But of course, way forward, government is planning that whatever supplier is raising invoice, that invoice is being paid and that is visible to the recipient, whether it is being shown in GSTR1 or not, whether it is being paid by the supplier or not. Kantilalji, thank you very much. But next webinar, please.
Thank you so much, Bimalji. So it was a great webinar, and the attendees have shown so much love in the chat section for you. We hope to have you in our next webinar. So Bimal Jain is going to be associated with us for other webinars too. So we hope to have all of you back in the series of webinars that we are going to host with him. We had a wonderful time today with Bimalji. Thank you so much.
I will just take one more minute to interact with my all the learned participants joining Pan India. I always say to my all the participants that you take out your time. And today we were having a lot of hassles, bandwidth issue and network issue, but still you stay tuned, you remain with me, and you are watching throughout. So first of all, thanking to each one of you. And second, I'm sure you have enjoyed today's webinar. I given you that some of the topic out of box with unique ideas, unique way forward, unique suggestion. I'm sure you must have liked today's webinar, your feedback, your suggestion, and I always look at. See, when you really come back to me in a chat box saying something, I always pay attention what you're writing, what you are, looking for. And yes, I know GST has got a lot of complication, but I definitely try from my side. I definitely try that I can make it good and simple for all of you. So hope you have enjoyed today and enjoyed today's session, and thanking for you to be part of today's session. So with this, allow me to say thanks once again and stay tuned. Take care of yourself. From tomorrow is the Mahavir Jayanti. So I greet each one of you, live and let live others, Gio or Ginido. Take care of yourself and pray to God for Vishwa Shanti. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Bimal ji. Thank
Thank
you.
you.